All right, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about functions in Python. Now, Python, we call them functions. Other languages like Java, we call them methods. They're basically the same thing. What they are programs that we can actually create, and then we can call on those, essentially. They're maybe not programs. They're sections of code that may be something that we want to reuse all the time and use kind of quite often. And we can call on it throughout our program. Now this is going to be super basic. We're just going to make one just kind of for fun here and kind of show you how you use this. So in Python, you have to define your function. You have to actually tell what that function is going to be. You have to tell the program what it is. You have to give it a name. And then you have to tell what kind of code you're going to have inside of that. A really useful tool for this could actually be a calculator program. You could define a function that's addition and subtraction and multiplication and things like that. And then you could have numbers added into those functions and it would print the results for you rather than having all this length of code. So we're going to define our function, and notice it comes up, kind of a reddish color there, purple, I guess, for this program. So we're going to define it, and then we have to give it a name. So I'm just going to call this CS is awesome. Now, you have to make sure that, or maybe we'll do this, CS is fun. Okay. You have to make sure they're all together. You cannot have any space in this because what happens is now we're kind of in a, is a tool within Python. So it identifies that as something, using it for something. So we don't want to do that. So we want to keep this all bunched together. And so we'll just call this CS is fun. And then you're going to keep these brackets here. We're not going to put anything in these right now. You could add parameters later. And we'll talk about that in a later video about parameters and how we can use that. That would be something that you could use in a calculator program. But for this, we're just going to kind of keep this blank because we're really not going to pass any information to our function. We're just going to call on our function and tell it to do something. So we're going to put brackets or colon in here like we would for an if statement, for a loop, things like that. But this is my function. It's CS is fun. And I'm just going to have it print, what do we want to say? Python is the best language. That'll get some. It may not be the best language. I think it's a very useful language, but there are plenty of other languages out there. I'm not committing to that. I'm just saying that Python is a great language. How about this? We'll change this up just so nobody, feels differently about that. Python's a great language. And I'm going to actually print this twice. Okay. Just to show you what's going on here. So, and then, now I'm not done with this yet, because if I were to run my code, nothing would happen because I have not called on my function here. So the way to do this now is down here outside of the function, I'm going to just say that CS is fun. And I'm going to use those same brackets. So in my program, what I'm doing down here is I'm just going to call on this. And what happens is when Python sees this, it's going to then go back up here and look and find, oh, CS is fun, and then print those off. And so if I run this, it'll say Python's a great language. Python is a great language. Now, the trick with this, and you got to be careful, is you have to make sure that you spell it exactly the way you have up here. Okay, if I don't, let's say I forgot the S because I was just typing real fast, nothing's going to happen. In fact, it should give me an error because it's going to say that, this name right here is not defined up here, right? So it hasn't been said what this is. So you got to make sure that you spell these correctly. This can happen a lot in programming. You create a method or a function, you name it, and then in your program later on, you call on it and you didn't type it correctly for whatever reason, just typing real fast and mess that up. So make sure that you spell it exactly the way this is. And what I would always do when you define these is make sure that you keep them consistent with what you're doing. If this was a calculator program and I had addition here, obviously this is where I'm going to add my numbers in and use, so make sure, give it a name that's relevant to what you're doing within that function. Okay, and I can call on this more than once too. Okay, and so when I run this, it's now going to print it twice. And yeah, that's kind of how that works. And if I wanted to, I could add a print statement in here. Okay, just to give some separation. Okay, and you can see that then it's calling this one, printed a blank line, and then it's calling on this one. Okay, so functions are really, really useful. They are things that you use in programming all the time. You know, you have this bigger program. We're kind of sticking to, you know, some small program, 8 lines here, but, you know, imagine you have hundreds of lines of code, and, you know, I'm using this a lot throughout my program. Well, I don't want to type this code over and over and over again. I'm just going to create a function, and then I'll just call on it whenever I need it. Okay? All right, so hopefully that helps you. Good luck with your programming.